Unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetic. This is the Retail Warzone podcast.
But what we're going to do real quick is I know tonight was going to be more of a discussion about what we're doing going forward, like a brainstorming thing. But there are things still to go through. So shout out to Blame Tag. He is our sponsor, and he will continue to be our sponsor no matter what we do going forward. The link to the serving times is there on the screen. It's also in the description of the video. Please check his stuff out. He wanted everybody to know that, the Writers Guild out there in California is striking, which is great. But he's not part of that. He says that he just hasn't made the content. So I appreciate his honesty there. Also, too, if you like this, subscribe. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, like the video. If you're watching it on Twitch, open up another tab. Go to the YouTube channel, hit like. If you want to, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool too. Whatever you do, you. So there's also the printable business card, which is in the description of the video for you to download. I know that Big Quit Energy has started passing these out, so that's cool. Just put them out there. Take a picture, send it to me, say, hey, look where I left this. He left it at a grocery store. So that's kind of cool. Having said that, it's been a while. So good to see everybody. Schedules aligned for everyone. I mean, like I said, we got Adria here. We've got, Blame Tag on a Wednesday. I mean, this is cool. This is cool. So since it's been a while, and I know it's going to be a discussion afterwards, let's take a look at some headlines because it's been a minute. All right. And some of these are very interesting. The first one is perfect storm is brewing for more retail bankruptcies after Bed Bath & Beyond and David's Bridal. From a personal standpoint, at home, the quote unquote home decor store that Mad Dog and I worked for, even though they're privately traded right now, or privately owned, their credit rating has went down from a B- to a CCC plus. And the thing that's hilarious about this one, guys, because we've worked in the business and we know this, there was a bunch of increased sales in a lot of different kind of sectors of retail during the pandemic. And these fucking assholes felt like, oh, it's all about the year-over-year numbers. Surely it's not COVID. We expect to do more than what we did during COVID. Guess what? Joke's on you guys. Not happening. Dumbasses. Anyway, and then in this week's edition of Nobody Wants to Work, Gap will lay off 1,800 employees as major retailers like Nordstrom, Whole Foods, and Walmart make cuts. So, yeah, nobody wants to work. Sure. And then keeping retail employees safe, a new study measures customer aggression. And I may have went over that the last Retail Warzone. I couldn't remember, but it is worth checking out. And then Whole Foods workers at shuttered San Francisco store witnessed knife attacks, a deadly fentanyl overdose, customer trying to defecate on the floor, and other chaos, report says, i.e. just a regular day at Dollar Tree. Just to let y'all know. That's about how that goes. And then keeping employees is still a nightmare scenario, according to this new data. Now, here's the key to that article. It's about small businesses. Guess what? Small businesses are not going to be able to survive on cheap labor. And most of the small businesses that have started, their business plan calls for paying employees the least amount that they can legally get away with. So, well, guess what? You caused it to yourself. Don't feel sorry for you. Fuck off. Have a nice day. Fired California Big Lots manager says she was just trying to get shopping cart back from shoplifter. Now, you guys have heard me talk about the shoplifting thing and trying to prevent it or whatnot. And the way they framed this, They're in a high theft area, and people were stealing the shopping carts. So they got those shopping carts that have like the locks when they go so far. And they had been informed by corporate that they need to go out and get every single shopping cart because they're getting stolen for whatever reason. And so they went out to get the carts. They were back quite a distance from the shoplifter, but they started filming it. And even though the getaway driver apologized and gave them all the merchandise back, since they went out trailing a shoplifter and there was the possibility of somebody getting injured or hurt, they got fired. Let them go. Let them go. Worry about your shopping cart later. So just trying to save a shopping cart, quote unquote, got them fired. And the interesting part about that article was they have tried for 8 days to get a hold of Big Lots for some sort of statement, and they have not returned their calls. The next one, Target CEO Brian Cornell earned 680 times its median employee's pay last year. And that was after he got a pay cut. Man, that's a problem. An absolute problem. And in shocking news, nearly half of executives see the current state of inflation as positive, according to new Kearney study. Of course they do. Of course they think it's positive because they're the ones benefiting from it, assholes. And then higher food prices bring bigger profits, but consumers start to resist. The food pricing is still crazy. I know we talk about like gallons of milk. We were talking about tracking that. I think the one that interests me the most is Hot Pockets. I know that sounds weird, but I remember like 2 years ago, Hot Pockets were like under $2. And now it's almost $4 a box. And Hot Pockets aren't exactly top tier food. So it's just crazy. And then prices at the supermarket keep rising. So do corporate profits. Kind of piggybacking off all the stuff we saw on Twitter and whatnot, where Business Insider kind of, piggybacked off the Wall Street Journal, who reported it first. I mean, shocker. I mean, we all work in the business. We know what's going on. But why all of a sudden is this news? We've been talking about this shit, for the past 6 months? I mean, we've been on top of that. So, yeah. Let's see what we got here. They're striking on the East Coast in New York City as well. That's great. Adrian says, blame tag, you post so much good shit. Yep, he does. Blaine Tech says they never fucking see past the short term, so infuriating. Correct. Alex says execs are so zeroed in on the bottom line they can't see anything else. Correct. Adria says, hey, there's a tip for keeping employees. Pay us better. It's not rocket science. I know, right? It's like they come up with all this weird shit like how to retain employees. It's pretty simple, but you never hear them say it, right? Alex says, I own a small business. I pay my employees $20 an hour and working on getting them to full time and then giving full benefits. Employees matter, and I won't do any less from that. You are the hero we all need. Period. Thank you for that. The show. That is awesome. Blame Tag says, I remember Ned Flanders' parents. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. Yes, that's good. And Adria says, in response to the Target one, Cornell did not do 680 times more work than a Target worker. That's damn for sure. I'd love to see some like video on like how the CEO's day goes. I'm sure it would piss us all off if it was a real video. They go to the sauna, they go to Starbucks, they go do whatever. They ain't working. They're not in these fucking stores. Alex says, I tried. I couldn't get anyone to contribute to the data. I only got 4 entries, including my own. That's all good, man. Adria says, I think Costco hot dogs are still $1.50. That is true. They are. But they hide behind their membership. So they kind of get a pass in the media, because of it. And they do pay their employees well. So I can't really diss them because I don't have enough experience about Costco to give a shit one way or the other. But by all reports, they do pay their employees well. Blame Tech says, hey, I want some props for accurately predicting that the new Starbucks CEO would learn nothing from working in the shops. Just kidding. Everybody knew that would happen, right? And Blankster says, Dollar Tree and the stale cookies to show appreciation. Oh, you got stale cookies. That's nice. Let's go. All right. So, having said that, let's hear from Irish a little bit. Irish, tell us a little bit about what's going on in your neck of the woods, what you're seeing inflation-wise or whatnot. Kind of say hi to everybody because it's been a minute.
Yeah, well, good evening, everyone. It has been a minute. Well, in terms of inflation, one thing started this week, which I found a bit interesting, was the stores over here, the big box retailers have started cutting the price of their dairy products, and it sounds good. It sounds like inflation is going in the right direction, but the farmers here have started to resist that because guess where they're taking the cuts from? They're starting to squeeze the farmers and what they pay them, so the profits essentially remain the same. But it might start some sort of a race to the bottom again because they have been enjoying the inflation as much as your guys over there for quite a while. Dairy has been particularly hard, hit very hard since all this inflationary thing started, which is like considering that we produce 8 times more dairy than we need in this country seems a little bit unusual. But
okay,
so
I had asked you this before, and I'm curious. Yeah. I bought a pack of Kerrygold salted butter sticks today, $4.68 US for 2 sticks. Is that close to what you guys are paying?
It would be close, yeah. So when you consider the transportation costs involved, you're getting a better deal. Now, look, I suppose the farming industry over here is I suppose in a way it's heavily unionized. Like they lobby the government a lot, to look to be looked after. It's not particularly profitable to be a small farmer, though. You'd need to be part of a large co-op, But their produce is really, really good. Like in the dairy stuff over here is world class.
So, can you give me a little background on Kerrygold? I mean, is that like a huge operation there?
Massive. It's absolutely. It's one of the biggest food operators in the world. They used to be called Glanbia. They're part of a group called Glanbia, which is basically it's an absolutely massive food producer. It's based in Kerry, hence Kerrygold. Kerry's a county in just south of me, in the Ireland. It's one of the prettier ones actually. And it started as a co-op. It started as a co-op as a bunch of farmers, and they just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're just a conglomerate now.
Well, that butter is awesome. I'm sorry. It's if nothing's on sale and I'm paying full price, I'm buying Kerrygold. It is that fucking good. And if you guys like butter and you use butter for anything and you haven't tried it yet, you owe it to yourself to do so. It is my go-to, especially when you cook steaks and you baste it in butter. It's great. So
no, it is good stuff. It's just, it's important that, it is part of retail after all. Like, it's important that the suppliers, the farmers, get their fair share as well, because without them, we'd be screwed.
Well, but I showed you that cheese, and you had never seen that before.
Yes, that's just probably some marketing crap. I have no idea where that came from.
So you guys don't have like Kerrygold cheese there that you can buy?
No, I do not. That might just be some marketing thing over in the States. I don't know. It's perfectly. I mean, they produce enough dairy that it's perfectly. Like we have an enormous amount of dairy exports. It's absolutely insane. But so it wouldn't surprise me that a lot of surplus I wouldn't be familiar with. Maybe they turn it into something else on your side of the pond.
Right. All right. Before we get into the crux of what we're talking about tonight, I want to bring this up. So I discovered something last night, and I sent Irish this video. So I watched Sam the Cooking Guy, and I guess they have this thing in Ireland called a spice bag.
Yes.
And so if you guys don't know what that is, just look up Sam the Cooking Guy and look at his recent videos. This just came out over the past couple of days. The question I had was, do you guys put curry sauce on it there?
No, it's usually on the side. No.
So that is a real thing. That's traditional.
No, I wouldn't say it's traditional. It's in the last couple of years, honestly. It's kind of a trend. Perhaps in the last 10 years or so.
But it's good. I mean,
it's damn good. It's fucking crack. It's just absolutely, yeah. It's the right blend of umami, and you got the starch in there, you got the spice, you got the flavors from it's absolute crack.
So the peppers he was using, is that close to what you guys use there?
Yeah, it'd be pretty. It's pretty authentic, actually. It's like, I mean, every little restaurant has their own version of that. It's like, stew or cottage pie. You know, that it just varies from place to place a little bit, but it's actually that was pretty accurate, in fairness.
And literally comes in a paper bag.
Yeah, or a little pizza box or something like that. Yeah, it does.
Wow, that's awesome. There was something that Hero researched today that I also want to ask about. Tell me about mushy peas.
Oh, this is a contentious one in my household. I love them. It's a bit like you and the cranberry sauce. All right, you love them or you hate them. Right, I quite like them. My wife hates them. Probably won't allow them in the house, type of thing. But yeah, mushy peas, I guess it's an acquired taste to me. I enjoyed them in my childhood, but essentially it's, marifat peas that are kind of mushy, and it's the taste that I admit is a little unusual, but and the texture can be maybe off-putting, but it goes so well with starch, with like fries, potatoes, or things like that. It's kind of wholesome, you know what I mean? It's also a bit of like poverty food as well. It's just
So
dirt cheap,
so is it just like sweet peas that are mushed up?
Yeah, they're not sweet though. They're, to be honest with you, they're a bit metallic in flavor. But yeah, they would resemble chickpeas in
Okay.
texture and taste.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Got you. Because when I heard that, I was like, that it was like, all I could picture was like sweet peas, mushed, like
Yeah,
on toast.
well, I mean, I guess yeah, I mean, the name sort of suggests that, but no, it's a lot more to the chickpea end of the spectrum, which I also quite like. Hummus is a thing. I like that as well,
Oh, Blame Tech says my wife hates Sam the Cooking Guy, but says we're going to watch that one after. You should. Hero, can you grab the link to that video and post it in the chat? I don't know if they can click on it or not, but it's good. It's cool.
Anyone that visits here, I'll treat them to a spice bag as well. All right.
So, and there was something else I wanted to ask you about. Oh, Hero, is there such a thing there where you get like fish that's fried and one looks normal and one's black?
Absolutely not. I have never heard of it.
All right, cool. All right, so now that we got the foodie shit out of the way, let's talk business. All right, so I think I have come to the conclusion that I am going to start a separate YouTube channel in the very near future. This isn't going to happen like overnight or some shit, for the retail therapy sessions. The retail therapy sessions are going to be the fun time. There may be headlines, but it'd be like the crazy headlines in retail. We'll talk about retail memes. We'll still have members of the community on, and we're going to completely break it off from the retail war zone and let it be its own thing and let it breathe on its own and whatnot. So the whole point of tonight was kind of like brainstorming on the serious side of it, the retail war zone. How do we proceed further? Irish, I was looking today on the YouTube channel, and we have 190 total videos. Think about that for a minute. That's a lot. And, I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. I took last month off because I'm just fucking out of gas. And I don't really know why. It's not like that I don't think the retail war zone is important for what it does, and I don't think that it's not worth my time. But I think we're at a point in growth and transition where we got to figure out what's the best way to move forward with the retail war zone. And, we've done all sorts of changes in the look. We've done, changes in the format, the headlines, all that. We've done a lot of stuff. And I don't know where this really comes from. It's not a numbers thing. It's not like I'm upset because we have X amount of subscriber. It's not any of that. It's just like, it feels like it deserves something more, but I don't know what that is. So Irish, I'll start with you, and then you guys in the chat, let me know what you think. Nothing going to offend me. All right. I don't give a fuck. Your opinions are yours. They're valid, and I will listen to them all. But the one thing I will say is, before we open Pandora's box here, I think as far as the retail war zone goes, it's the serious one, and it needs to be more about quality and quantity, which means it might not be every week. And, the community matters. I mean, that's the greatest thing that's come out of all of this is the community. But I don't think everything needs to be so serious and doom and gloom all the time. Hence why I want to break the therapy sessions off into its own entity and let it just do its thing on its own. So, having said that, Irish, I'll turn it over to you. And if you guys have suggestions, put them, in the chat. That's why we're here tonight.
I'm largely in agreement with Steve. First of all, what brought me to the channel in the first place was the therapy aspect of the Warzone. I was searching around for things like this, and I was looking for a place where I could listen to like-minded people, try to therapeutically get through their own personal retail Warzone. And I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of it. And I really also enjoyed the more serious conversations that you had around important topics within retail, like, minimum wage, and workplace bullying, all sorts of things, and mental health in particular. But the reality is those two things are probably separate just by, through osmosis, they have kind of taken their own paths, because one is more, I suppose, relaxing than the other. You can just like chill out, listen to a retail or listen to a therapy session and let people just go. And we end up in strange places talking about mushy peas. That's actually right. That's therapeutic. It is. But at the same time, there are some very, very important topics that we discuss. And although the viewer numbers are not that high, I still think it's important to put it on the record there, because at some point, these topics will arise again. People will be looking for things on the minimum wage, and there will be a record there that, these guys said this at this time. And it's also a record, like, nobody now can replicate what you've done during the pandemic. There wasn't a damn, retail related podcast in the entire pandemic, except for your one that I'm aware of. So right. Like those things are important, and there is a serious side and there is a therapeutic side. It's natural, I think, to separate the two. One can be like a time capsule for the things that you have discussed in the past, which are very important. We can revisit some of those and redo some of those, because some of them almost nobody watched, because your channel was only a number of months old when you covered some very important topics. Right. But the therapy sessions, I think, could well be their own entity, because they are. They're more inviting, I suppose. People are more likely to kind of get involved and say, geez, I work retail as well. Here's my story, as opposed to getting involved in what could be potentially a controversial topic like minimum wage. They're more likely to kind of contribute in that respect. And I also personally, I like the long form conversation things. That's niche, not most. That's why TikTok is so popular. Everything is 7 fucking seconds long.
Right.
And
the attention span is just not there.
It's not there. No. So that's probably why. But you see, it comes down, we spoke about before in a number of episodes, integrity. Yes, this channel could have 100,000 subscribers if we jeopardize the integrity and started going viral with bullshit videos and staged crap. But then we will have an audience full of people expecting 7-second sound bites of some controversial crap, and then our integrity is fucked. I prefer not for that not to be the case. And I think any meaningful contribution I've ever seen in the chat has been it has been kind of supportive of those kind of ideas. And I don't know. I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks. If people think that there's a good reason to keep the two together, I'm open to that as well. I'll go along with the consensus here. Like, this is more of a democracy than a dictatorship, I think.
Right. And, hold on just a second here. The thing I'm looking at is, and I'm going to be real honest with you, and this is something that's weighed on me heavily. The abundance of sharing on Reddit has killed the momentum of the retail war zone. I don't know who was doing it. Don't care. It doesn't matter. But when you've got people on their own accord, and even, with good intentions over there, and they're posting it in like 10, 20 different fucking subreddits or whatnot. That's not good. That doesn't help. And especially over there with those clowns. And like, once again, I will say, if you haven't checked out my post on Twitter about Reddit, I think the title of the thread was just, this is what I was talking about or something like that. And it shows exactly what kind of people you're dealing with. I feel like if I'd have steered away from Reddit and it wasn't shared so much there, that we may see more. But Reddit has kind of hurt the viewership. Now don't get me wrong. I mean, I met you, Irish, through Reddit, and there's been some cool things that we've done through Reddit, but those are few and far between. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that hurt it. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says about me or what we do. None of that. I'm pretty thick fucking skinned. That shit don't bother me. I don't give a damn. There was somebody like, oh, that guy's just some cuck for the system, blah, blah. What the fuck ever? I don't care. Say what you want to say. That don't bother me. I don't leave sleep at night over some keyboard warrior saying some bullshit. I just don't. But I do believe that mass flood, and I had told you about it. We looked up the user and we saw how much they were spreading this shit, right? Mm-hmm. That I think that hurt. And the reason that hurt was because it wasn't organic. All of a sudden we'd have some video with like 500 fucking views or some shit, but they were only like 10 seconds a piece.
Yeah.
And from an algorithm standpoint, that did nothing but harm. Okay. And like I said, I will once again say, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not trying to be some famous YouTuber or whatnot. I think the topics we discuss are important. I'm not here for fame. I'm not here for I'll be fucking 53 years old. I have fucking way too long hair to work in retail again. I'm not here to impress anybody. I really aren't. I mean, that's not why I'm here. But I almost feel like we're at a point, if we break the two off, that the war zone needs to kind of hibernate. Like, ideally, what I see, and I know Hero thinks from an algorithm standpoint, we shouldn't break the two up, and that's a valid argument. But I almost feel like the retail war zone needs to hibernate a little bit. Irish is still going to be part of it. He's still going to be the co-host. It's not going to go away. But I think it was where Alex says, you talked before about doing a once a month big show, and I still think that's a good idea, especially if you're splitting the therapy sessions off. And that's where, that gives Irish and I time to plan something and do something cool, whether we have a guest or whether we do a lot of research on a certain topic, and it's an hour long, TED Talk, basically, okay, where it's chock full of information and data, and, it's a crucial topic on something that we're passionate about. And, Hero, I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree, but I think it would be interesting to break the two apart. And if I broke the two apart, here's what would happen. The YouTube channel would start, and officially the very first retail therapy sessions that we would have, that'd be episode 1. I would hide everything, after about a month on the Retail Warzone YouTube. I'd just make it private to where nobody can see it, or unlisted, and let it do its own thing. If I get some feedback saying, hey, where did this go on the Retail Warzone side, I'll, list it back. Blame Tag said something that made, he said, I liked when you had serious guests, but then also broke it up with chill, silly shit as well. I mean, face it, we work in a shitty business, and I kind of look at therapy sessions as like, okay, we could kind of do something similar to what we do here, but we do like the funny headlines, or we do like the meme of the week, that kind of stuff, because comedy is good. I mean, it makes people laugh and it makes people feel good about what they're doing. And it really kind of comes down to like drawing a line down the middle of extremely serious versus extremely light. And that's kind of how I've felt for a while. And I just think that's like the right path forward. What you got, Irish?
I can see both sides, and there's valid arguments for both sides. But I in terms of creating a new YouTube channel and starting from scratch, yeah, I mean that can be done. It's like a
it's not hard.
No, it's not hard. It's a clean break, blank slate, and all that sort of stuff. And it's not like we've got 20,000 subscribers that have to transfer over. I don't know out of the 360 something subscribers how many of them are just dead accounts. I don't know. So I don't know. The consequences are not exactly too high to start something separate. In terms of the algorithm, if I'm perfectly honest with you, we're never going to figure that out. We're long form. We're fucked from the start.
Correct. Now, I do want to address a comment. Blame Texas that we should go to all-out war with the Clopen effect. You know what? They do something totally different. It's really interesting because I reached out to them when I first started the War Zone to kind of collab, and they weren't interested in that, and that's okay. I mean, hell, I reached out to Camelot 331. I mean, silence, but at least the folks from the ladies from the Clopen effect, responded. But they do something totally different. I mean, it really is, from what I've seen, they're really focused on local businesses and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. Although it doesn't really relate to retail, but what they're doing is cool. I mean, hey man, you guys do you. I mean, I'd still love to collaborate with them. I think it'd be cool. But they're in a different lane. And once again, I do want to say, like I said, there's a lot you guys see. I mean, you can go to YouTube and see how many views there are and whatnot. The audio side does pretty fucking good. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And, but I mean, it does okay for me. I mean, it far exceeds the expectations I would, expect for what we do. And, in the audio form, you can pause it, you can download it and listen to it later, or it could be something you listen to on a long car drive or whatnot. And that's cool. I mean, the numbers on the audio side far surpass everything on the video side. And it's not even fucking close. I've sent Irish the stats from time to time, and he's like, shit,
Well, to put it into perspective, like there's more people listening in Ireland than watch on YouTube total. Generally speaking, which when you think about that, it's not even based in Ireland. Like, and nobody knows me. Like,
well, here's the thing. You know what, Irish? You're like, it's when I look at the stats by country, this is what's going to be frightening. Ireland's like number 6. Think about that for a minute. Canada's up there, and I'm assuming that has to do with Cranky, but the United Kingdom is higher than Ireland. I think this was a really weird. I think Chile is actually higher than Ireland. It's weird. I mean, where this stuff comes from, and they've introduced a new thing. I had sent you like the stats or percentages of what people. All of a sudden, they changed it, and 50% of all listens come from a web browser that they don't specify, which is weird. But, the audio numbers are cool. I mean, Spotify specifically, we have 146 followers. Hey, that's 146 people that take the time to listen to the bullshit we spew. That's awesome. But they're small compared to what we have on Apple Podcasts, which, Irish, you did the math. It was like between Apple Podcasts and that, it was like 1,000.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I think it was nearly 1800 or something like that. You had, yeah.
Yeah. So the audio side does good, you know, but a lot of this is part of how the technology works. Because what I do is I figured out I can do a live stream. We can have a community and we can do whatnot. And then I can pull that video down and then I can export the audio. Then I can chop it up and edit whatever I want and then put it up on the audio side. So it does handshake. It's crucial to both. The live stream is important. You can't really convey chat over, an audio file, but I guess so far it's been okay. Blame Tech says you should be doing 3-4 hour shows a week. You should fuck off. What are you doing? What kind of crack is that? But looking at the chat real quick, Irish says quality over quantity every time, stand firm. Blame Tech says having integrity sure is tough. It is, yes. Hero talked about the algorithms, and then Alex was like, well, and here's the beautiful thing. You can attempt it, and if it doesn't work, you can always change it back. That's the perfect thing. We could try this, and if it doesn't work, fine, whatever. But to me, there's a curiosity of if we spun off therapy sessions, how it would get discovered and how that would grow versus what we do. That to me seems intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, by virtue of the fact I presume you're going to keep the name retail therapy, you'll probably get a lot of curious people that just Google that anyway and find it. But it could be interesting. Like I can't see how this could go too wrong, in all honesty. Like worst case scenario, it absolutely flops. No views, no nothing. Well, okay.
I mean, but in the grand scheme of things, what does that fucking matter? I mean, right?
None. Look, I mean, I toyed with the idea in my head of just being audio only. But the only thing is that it's the chat. You can't. You need the chat. So unless you can figure out how to do that, and as well as that, if the audio is doing, like, clearly people are listening to long form things in audio more than they are watching it, and that makes sense. But some of especially the retail Warzone videos, they contain the graphs and headlines and everything else, and that's not always easy on to convey in audio fact, but people still listen. So it's the chat, it's the community that in the live streams that kind of keep me saying that the videos are still the way to go. I'm not sure what people feel about that. I mean, if they think, no, well, you can do the chat in a different way. I don't know. But I don't see a downside necessarily. I mean, I honestly, in terms of like worrying about the algorithm, is considering this is such a niche topic and considering that the algorithm is heavily weighted to clickbait crap in any event, which we're not, we're screwed when it comes to the algorithm.
I want to address a couple things you said there and what Alex just said. Okay, I would challenge every one of you to go out there and find any YouTuber that does this stuff that has the chat in the middle of their fucking screen. They don't. And that was by design with me. Yes, if you're on YouTube, there's a YouTube chat that's on a window, okay, that you can see. But I think it's important to have you included in what we're doing. Hence why the middle of the screen takes up the most real estate for you guys to say what you want to say. And I'm never going to change that, Alex. Don't worry about it. It's always going to be there. Because that is, to me, is the most important part.
And you had that from day one as well.
Exactly, from day one. My entire focus from day one was interaction from people who were interested in what I was doing. Because I've said this before, and that's why we're having this conversation tonight. And to your point, Hybrid, community matters. that's I mean, look at the screen. You guys take up more real estate than anything here. Why do you think that is? Because it's important. You know, I'm not sitting here with a full screen of me with like a muscle shirt or some shit. Look at all my stuff in the background and blah, blah, blah. While the chat's over on YouTube, where if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the chat. No, you guys are the stars here. You guys are what matters. That's why you're directly in the center of the screen. You always have been, and you always will be. Period.
I think, in fairness to you, and all credit to you, that was impressive from the start, especially when you had like pretty much no subscribers at the start. Like I remember finding it and seeing the chat and going, that is really unusual, because who does that, you know?
Nobody.
I was even suspicious, going, is that real? I commented on something. You yourself and Alex at the time were doing, I think it was you did a show in the early days, might have been your fourth show, maybe third, about women in retail.
Yes.
And I was like, I wonder, you know, yeah. So I typed something, I forget what it was, and it worked. I was like, holy shit. You know, and like for such a small channel to go to the bother of doing that when most people upload absolute nonsense, right, was impressive. And I think so from the very get-go, it was clear that you had the community in mind, and that is what keeps, well, it's kept me here, and that's what keeps me focused more on the YouTube. Now, I'm not a big fan of YouTube. It could be right on another platform that you can share videos on. I don't have a preference necessarily, but the chat is very important, because she's without that, and sometimes it blows up, and it's fantastic. It's really entertaining.
It is, and you know, like Mel just said, you're the only one who focuses on chat, I think. Okay, if you go look at some of the quote unquote competitors, they'll call out people in the chat who are donating money, right? They're not, you know, reading comments and addressing everybody. Now, mind you, if this thing ever exploded, it would be really hard to, all right? But the cool thing is it hasn't, and there's something to be said for it being small. But, you know, let's say the chat is really busy one night and I miss something. I don't delete anything. So whatever your thoughts are and your comments are, they're still there. Somebody be watching the replay and see it. You know, it's valid. You know, I have to go in and we see some crazy stuff where stuff gets, you know, like you could type in assembly right now and you're going to get 3 asterisks for the ass. Okay. You just have to do that shit, you know, terms and conditions and whatnot. But I always looked at this as building a community. And that's why you guys are in the middle of the screen. There is no YouTube channel out there. I challenge you all to go look. There's nobody that has the focus on you guys like I do. And it's been that way from the very beginning. I think it's important. And that's for 2 things. Number one, you know, I'm sitting here doing this and I've got a camera right in front of my fucking face, right? There is a separate window off to my left that has all the chat. But we're doing this live, and I have this screen right here that I can see it as it comes through. What you say is important, and I can see it as you do it, and that engages conversation, and I think that's important. And I will never, ever change that. That's going, Alex, don't worry. It's never going anywhere, because that's the most important part to me is your guys' input, the things you're going. That's why I retail, you know, I feel like the retail therapy sessions, the chat is more important, because eventually one day we're going to have somebody in that chat that's going through some shit, right? And they're just going to dump it. And that's where we as a community reach in, hug this person, walk them through what they're going through, and help them out. And that's the whole point of all of this. So, this is Blame Tag. Nobody loves you like I do. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's once or twice as well. I think that to an extent that has happened. I won't name them, but there was an early subscriber that was going into difficulty. I think he moved cities, and I know he went through some stuff. And I think he spoke well in the chat one night, and it was nice to see that the community get behind the person. I think he had some health difficulties. It's a great community. I think it's good just for the record as well. Like, you're putting out there on record. I mean, someone might in years to come trawl to Reddit posts or something like that to see what it was like working during a pandemic or so. But there was nothing like people discussing it in this way. And look, and retail is going to fundamentally change. It has fundamentally changed since COVID. It's going to continue to fundamentally change with AI, with lean supply, all this sort of stuff that you have covered, and it's important. I would not take any video down, period, if I'm honest. But it can be separate. You can leave this channel as it is and create a separate one. But I think all of the topics you discussed, bar none, are important in some way or the other and should be there for the record, in my opinion.
Correct. Well, I mean, everything we've done, I'm not taking down. Now, Blame Tag says you should do some episodes on why customers are the only reason we have jobs and we should respect them. Are you being serious right now? Because that, from a Blame Tag situation, that just does not seem serious. But if you are, okay, it's valid. But you made a good point, Irish, about like coming through the pandemic and whatnot. But I like I said, I feel like you had mentioned AI, and Hero and I had a conversation. Oh, Blame Tech says no. I just have a manager who said to me recently, the manager needs to be fired. Just saying. Yeah, I'm not going to take them down, Hero. But anyway, you were talking about AI, and guys, I want you guys to wrap your heads around this for a minute. All right. So a lot of us growing up, when we were looking for career paths and whatnot, we were all told, you need to get in the tech industry. You need to learn to code. You need to learn to do these things. And all of a sudden, there's AI, and it's doing better at these jobs than people. I hate to say this, and it breaks my heart, really, to say this. Retail, grocery, and restaurant are going to be the last men and women standing when AI kicks in. It's right now you hear about how retailers can't hire because nobody wants to work. As AI progresses, that's going to be the only jobs for everybody. We are in fucking trouble, guys, because AI is taking out the tech sector, and you're going to have people that need to have jobs. And guess what? The only human jobs are going to be the ones we complain about. How the fuck's that going to work? Irish, your take?
Yeah, I mean, it could go that way. I mean, there's definitely going to be, there's a lot of unknowns here. And it's just to document, as you've done, the transition period between, I suppose, the from the pandemic, when you got shafted, and so did I, and to take it from people who were loyal to retail all their lives to get suddenly dropped like that after 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, it was a big wake up call for us. And then you took that. So, and throughout the entire pandemic up until now, you've gone through all of that transition period where retail has changed and come back, and you've had the great resignation, you had quiet quitting, you had all these stupid terms. And now you have nobody wants to work anymore. That has been a recurring theme throughout the last century. But, this time it seems like they might be actually right, because it's become that bad in retail. So retail itself is going to have to change. Yeah. And it may well go the other way, where they start focusing on people more and focusing on customer service again in a meaningful way. And retail, might go back to what it was. Do you remember, the late 90s weren't so bad. So, it's interesting that like you've been documenting that throughout the entirety, and I don't know. I just think that's really interesting. As niche and all as it is, as low enough as the numbers might be that watching it now, in years to come, I think it might be a very interesting topic for somebody.
It will be. We're gonna be like on the internet Wayback Machine at some point in time, because I'm telling you, tech jobs and shit are gonna go away, and retail is gonna be the biggest booming fucking employment sector ever, because there's nowhere else to work. And let's see here. What was it? The Blame Tag. Blame Tag said something. His manager asked me in an interview what frustrates me about the job, and I said, trying to get my job done while it's too crowded to move. And that's the feedback I got when she rejected me about they pay your paychecks. What the fuck ever. Wow. But one thing I do want to say, and I don't mean this in any kind of weird, kind of creepy way, all right? I love you all. You guys and gals who participate, you've made it worth it. You're the reason we've made it this far. I mean, we're coming up on 3 fucking years, man. And I'm not going to lie, I've been kind of out of gas. There's a lot going on in my life as far as, there's work. We had that store reset. That sucked. I'm doing this band thing, which has been a bucket list thing for me for my entire life. And it's a one-shot deal. I mean, I'll be 53 years old. There's no shot after that. It's like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this now because that's it. So there's a lot going on. So your support means a lot. And, the one thing that I want to go forward with is, I've talked about how I don't worry about the numbers, but I think subconsciously I was. I don't fucking care anymore. I don't give a damn. I mean, if there's one fucking person that watches, great. I don't give a shit. We need to do this for us. And us becomes whatever us is. If we bring people into the group, cool. If people don't want to be in the group, that's cool. Whatever you want to do. But, as a conclusion to all this, because we're almost in an hour, expect Warzone to be twice, but more than likely once a month. And I am going to toy with the idea of splitting off therapy sessions. It might be a while. I mean, for the time being, therapy sessions may be exactly where they're at. All right. But don't be surprised. And this is your warning that it could change. But you guys are already here. So it's not going to be like a big deal. It's like, okay, here, go to this link and subscribe and boom. And you're already there. You're good. But, I want therapy sessions to be fun and serious at the same time. If we get somebody that comes into therapy sessions that has a problem, we've got some very brilliant people in this community. Let's talk them through it. But let's make that one the fun one. Let's make that one, submit your funniest retail memes. And when we do headlines, we'll do some headlines at the beginning, and it's all the funny ones. The stuff that kind of knocks the dust off, and just have a good time. And I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, it's like Alex said, I can always go back to doing it the way I was doing it. So there's no harm, no foul. But I'm going to split them off and see where it goes from there. And Adrian says, I like the idea of spring cleaning. It's just a spring clean for the May Queen. I saw your post on Twitter, but I saw it 5 hours after you made it. But yes, I would have been able to guess what you were talking about within 60 seconds. Just want to let you know. And Blame Tag, that's what we could do, Blame Tag. On the therapy sessions, we can have the Blame Tag meme of the week. We don't even have to outsource. You make your meme, and it's the Blame Tag meme of the week. I'm okay with that. And what we can do is we can kind of twist it a little bit. The Serving Times is the sponsor of the Warzone, and quote unquote Blame Tag is the sponsor of the retail therapy session. So it'd be cool stuff. Yeah. So neat. So having said that, Irish, we're at 57 minutes. So give us your closing comments, sir.
Okay. I think you have a kind of clear vision of what the next steps are. What I would encourage anyone that's relatively new here to do is to go back to the very start of the channel. And if you don't watch them, at least look at the titles of the videos and see just how much coverage there is of very important topics, and see if you want to revisit any of them in a kind of updated fashion, where we can throw some real research and effort behind, and put a month's work into making a very thought-provoking video on whatever you choose, because there's some big hitters in it. There's minimum wage is a very early one. Women in retail was an early one. So if you're not familiar with the early stuff, there's some gold in that. So go back, look at those, and see if you can make any suggestions as to what the more kind of serious topics are. In terms of the retail therapy, I think that will take its own course. I think that's more, I don't know, a little bit easier, but I'm, again, as always, fully supportive of what you do. There's it's taken on its own thing now, but from the very beginning, I supported what you do here, community-based, essentially refuge for poor bastards that worked in retail for too long, like myself.
Yep. And having said that, Irish, I know I've got my thing about Reddit, but the one thing I get to give Reddit is that's how you found me. And, I think you are a great human being, and I love the fact that you're invested in this. And I can't wait till the day we meet face to face. And that's another thing, guys. I mean, we've talked about it and joked. One day, there's going to be a retail Warzone conference. One day. It's probably going to be in Blame Tag's neck of the woods or Hybrids. Atlanta's probably going to still be it. But you know what? We got to get there. We got to get the following to make sure that there's enough people to make it worth it. And it would be cool, man. And that will be awesome. And we're going into year 3, so it's not uncommon to get a little burnout and start reevaluating. But the one thing I wanted to do is make everybody know that it's not going anywhere. It's going to change, but we're going to keep doing what we keep doing. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's important to do both. I think it's important to split both. And I'm really interested to see if I create a new channel for the therapy sessions, what happens to it. Curiosity, really, honestly, see what happens. And like Alex said, if it doesn't work, I can just switch it back the way it was. That's the beautiful part. So that's cool. So having said that, everybody have a wonderful evening. Stay safe. And we will see you next time. Peace out.